We are going to start with the coronavirus and its impact on other areas of the country. Cases continuing to spike in the south and west, including Phoenix, Arizona. Hospitals there are now seeing a record number of patients. NBC's Joe Fryer is at one of them with the very latest. Hey, Joe, good morning.
Hoda, good morning. This is impacting different states in different ways. Even the ages of those infected differs from state to state. Here in Phoenix, the intensive care units behind me at Banner Medical Center are very busy as doctors and nurses try to fight this spike in COVID-19 cases.
This morning, Arizona is seeing one of the largest increases in COVID-19 cases in the country. Numbers nearly doubling in the last 14 days with more than 2,000 new cases on Monday. Now, with only 17% of hospital beds available in Phoenix, nurses on the front line say they're struggling to keep up.
Looking forward at the next few weeks, it's kind of scary and daunting.
All as President Trump is scheduled to speak at this Phoenix megachurch later today. In a since-deleted post, church leaders boasted about a device they say can kill 99.9% of the virus in minutes.
Ionization, it's ionization of the air, and it takes particulates out, and COVID cannot live in that environment.
But medical experts dispute that claim.
Filtration technology in particular would not prevent COVID-19 transmission from person to person.
Across the country, many states in the north and east have seen fewer new cases, while others in the south and west are seeing record numbers, with 8 states amassing more than 1,000 new cases in the last 24 hours. And still no reports yet of spikes related to protests earlier this month. With almost 3,000 new cases in Florida Monday, Miami's mayor is now requiring masks be worn in public spaces.
Without a doubt, enforcement will be a challenge.
Florida's governor says there's an increase in COVID-19 cases in people under the age of 45. The trend also seen in Texas, along with an average of 3,500 new COVID-19 cases every day. All of this as a new study raises questions about how long COVID-19 immunity may last. Researchers found the amount of antibodies in a small group of infected people dropped as much as 96.2% just 2 to 3 months after infection. Back in Arizona, as hospitalizations rise, so does anxiety.
I feel like the worst is yet to come.
Another big concern is testing. So far, Arizona's Department of Health says the state has tested shy of 600,000 people, one of the lowest testing rates in the country. Some say they're waiting hours to get tested. Hoda?
All right, Joe, thank you. We are now joined by Dr. Ashish Jha, the director of Harvard Global Health Institute. Dr. Jha, good morning to you. Let's talk a little bit about these numbers. The death toll in the United States now tops 120,000. We have 25 states seeing an uptick, surging numbers in Texas and Arizona and in Florida. And I actually read this article that said Texas Children's Hospital is now opening its beds to adults so they can free up other beds for COVID patients. So how do you account for the uptick in these numbers, and do you think we're ready for it?
Yeah, so good morning. Thanks for having me on. You know, about a month and a half ago, the president's own task force laid out criteria for what states should use before they open up. And a good number of states, many of the places where we're seeing spikes, ignored those criteria and opened up when the case numbers were high and they were not coming down. And so in many ways, this was expected. So as upsetting as it is to see these cases, it's not surprising. And the question now in front of us is, what are we going to do to really try to curtail these spikes so that our hospitals don't get overwhelmed and we don't find ourselves having to shut down again? That's the thing we all want to try to avoid. And I'm worried that we're not taking it seriously enough.
Well, let's talk about curtailing it, because one of the big issues is masks. I mean, some people wear them, some people don't wear them. People are getting in fights over them at like a Walmart. Some people don't want to wear them on planes. Do you think there should be kind of a national standard for mask wearing?
Yeah, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are bringing up, people want to have freedom to not wear masks. Now, I understand sometimes masks can be a little uncomfortable, but the bottom line is that we know that masks reduce infections and they save lives. And just as, I can't walk into a retail store and light up a cigarette, I shouldn't be able to walk into a retail store without wearing a mask. These are basic public health measures that I think should be implemented across the country. It's not that inconvenient. And if it helps us stay open and avoid our hospitals getting overwhelmed, it feels to me like it's well worth the cost.
I think a lot of people are wondering, what if I do everything right? What if I wear a mask? What if I wash my hands? What if I take all the precautions? Is it cool that I go out to a town and go shopping or go out and about? Would I be okay in that instance?
Well, there is no such thing as perfect safety. All you can do is reduce your risks. But if you're wearing a mask, if you're washing hands, and if you're in a community that's not having a large outbreak, then yeah, going out and about is a reasonable thing to do, but still worth maintaining social distancing. And when you go into a retail shop, not spending large amounts of time in crowded indoor spaces. If you do all of those things, I think your risks are pretty low. But the biggest factor is how big of an outbreak do you have in your community? Mm-hmm. And so for everybody, the key is make sure that your political leaders are doing everything they can to keep the level of virus down in your community.
And quickly, I just want to ask about this one other headline. The number of young people, the cases in young people is spiking. How do you account for that? And what's the real concern if that's the case?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is because when places opened up, the bars and restaurants and nightclubs, it's more often frequented by young people. So they're going to be the first ones to get infected. Some people would like to say, well, that's not a big deal because young people don't get us sick. Now, that is true, but young people are then going to go spend time with their parents and grandparents. And so I'm very concerned about this. And just because it starts with young people doesn't mean it'll stay with young people. We've really got to curtail infections across all age groups.
All right. Dr. Jha, thank you for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, 7:11. Savannah, over to you.
Yeah, we turn to the breaking news from Washington overnight. Hoda, you may have seen this scene. Police having to step in as protesters attempted to tear down a statue of former President Andrew Jackson near the White House. And similar scenes have played out across the country in recent weeks. NBC's Garrett Hake joins us from Lafayette Park in Washington this morning. Garrett, good morning to you.
Savannah, good morning. Lafayette Park is once again closed this morning, being protected by Secret Service and U.S. Park Police after demonstrators tried to pull down this statue of Andrew Jackson last night. All of this clearly visible from the White House windows.
Near the White House overnight, a tense standoff with police as protesters tried to tear down a statue of former President Andrew Jackson.
It's a racist Confederate statue. Okay, it should be knocked down and put in a museum.
U.S. Park and D.C. police stepped in, using a helicopter from above and pepper spray on the ground to disperse the crowd of demonstrators. In a late-night tweet, the president calling it disgraceful vandalism and threatening 10 years in prison under the Veterans Memorial Preservation Act. It comes as the American Museum of Natural History in New York has decided to remove a statue of Teddy Roosevelt in the face of growing criticism for its depiction of Native American and African figures.
A black man and Indian man look inferior. Period.
The statue, unveiled in 1940, was meant to celebrate the former president and pioneering conservationist whose father helped found the museum.
The statue clearly, presents a white man as superior to people of color. And that's just not acceptable in this day and age.
The museum has now decided to remove it, saying the statue itself communicates a racial hierarchy that the museum and the public have long found disturbing.
These are monuments that don't represent for the people. It's representation of oppression.
I think it should stay. I think tearing down our history is ridiculous. It's not going to change history. We should learn from it.
Most of these people don't even know what they're taking down.
With monuments being torn down in recent weeks from coast to coast, President Trump says he'll sign an executive order demanding cities protect their statues in the wake of George Floyd's death.
We're going to make the cities guard their monuments. This is a disgrace.
Hoda, that Andrew Jackson monument has an extra layer of fencing around it this morning, an extra layer of protection. And this morning, the president is tweeting on this again, saying he's authorized federal law enforcement to arrest anyone who defaces or tries to tear down a statue on federal property. Says it can be punishable by up to 10 years in jail.
All right. Garrett, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you. Craig joins the table now. Another big story tied to the coronavirus.
Yeah, Hoda, good morning. We're talking about President Trump heading to Arizona today, one of the states that's seen a major surge in cases. This as more members of the president's campaign staff involved in that weekend rally in Tulsa test positive for COVID-19. NBC's White House correspondent Kristen Welker has that story. Kristen, good morning.
Hi, Craig. Good morning to you. As you just mentioned, President Trump's trip to Arizona does come amid a spike in cases in the state. He's going to make 3 stops, including at a mega church in Phoenix, as we said earlier in the show, which has a 3,000-seat capacity. President Trump increasingly defiant about the state of his campaign and about holding those indoor events. This morning, President Trump defending his indoor campaign events, even as 2 more campaign staffers tested positive for coronavirus ahead of another rally today in Phoenix.
Are you potentially putting the lives of Americans at risk by continuing to hold these indoor events? Cases in Arizona are spiking, sir.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Not worried at all, then?
I'm not worried about it. No, not at all. We watch it. We're very careful.
At least 8 members of Mr. Trump's Tulsa Advance team have now tested positive for COVID-19 since Saturday's rally, the same event where the president made this controversial claim about testing.
When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
The White House initially said the president made the comments in jest, but when pressed about it during an interview with the Christian Broadcasting Network.
Was that tongue-in-cheek or no, it's semi-tongue-in-cheek. I say it all the time. I know some people thought it was tongue-in-cheek. It's unfair. We're doing so much testing.
And while sources close to the Trump campaign say President Trump was furious over the underwhelming crowd in Tulsa, the White House pushing back Monday.
The president was very pleased with the rally. I was with him, and I just have to say these media reports that he was somehow furious on the plane, there is no grounding in fact to that.
Sources close to the campaign also tell NBC News the president is increasingly displeased with his longtime campaign manager, Brad Parscale, who promised a huge turnout. The president asked about any possible shakeups on Monday.
You going to make any changes to your campaign?
We're doing, I think, very well. We just started.
You still trust your campaign manager?
I trust everybody. Yeah, I trust everybody. We're doing very well. I had a lot of the same people in the first campaign.
Also, Kristen, this morning, the markets on a bit of a roller coaster overnight after some comments by the president's top trade advisor, Peter Navarro. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, Craig, that is absolutely right. Stock futures sank Monday overnight before recovering after Peter Navarro, the president's top trade advisor, stoked concerns the trade deal with China could be off. Here's the exchange that prompted the whole thing. It was on Fox News. Take a look.
Do you think that the president he obviously really wanted to hang on to this trade deal as much as possible, and he wanted them to make good on the promises because there had been progress made on that trade deal. But given everything that's happened and all the things you just listed, is that over?
It's over, yes.
Now, in an attempt to calm the markets, Navarro clarified his comments overnight, including to NBC News. He told me, quote, "My comments had nothing to do with the trade deal at all, period, full stop." He says he was talking about the lack of trust between the U.S. and China. Now, Trump officials say China showed a real lack of transparency during the early stages of the coronavirus, so that's been building tensions between the 2 countries. President Trump tweeted about the matter overnight. He said the China trade deal is fully intact. Hopefully they will continue to live up to the terms of the agreement. So a lot of focus on the markets this morning, Craig.
Yeah, we'll see how clarifying those comments were in about 2 hours. Kristen Welker from the White House. Kristen, thank you.
Also this morning, the FBI has now joined the investigation into that noose found in the Talladega Speedway garage of NASCAR's only black driver, Bubba Wallace. And before yesterday's race, there was this powerful display of support from dozens of Wallace's fellow drivers. It was something. NBC's Sam Brock joins us now from Talladega with the very latest. Hey, Sam, good morning.
Yeah, Hoda, good morning. Bubba Wallace didn't win Monday's race, but this was a victory for everyone. What happened at Talladega was so much more than just an emotional boost for fans and for drivers. It was historic and an incredible moment for a nation at a crossroads.
Racing is the great equalizer.
In a 500-lap race at Talladega Superspeedway,
It was this unforgettable stretch before the green flag dropped.
The entire garage area has rallied around Bubba Wallace.
That will likely serve as an enduring image for generations of NASCAR fans.
All in all, we won today. The pre-race deal was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to witness in my life.
An emotional Bubba Wallace, the sport's only black driver, wept on the track as dozens of his fellow drivers and their crews showered him with love and support, pulling his number 43 car to the front of the line after Wallace was the apparent target of a hate crime.
I wanted to show whoever it was that you're not going to take away my smile, and I'm going to keep on going.
The act that sickened the sports world. A noose left in Wallace's garage stall a week after he successfully lobbied NASCAR to ban the Confederate flag. Current drivers and former stars like Dale Earnhardt Jr. speaking out.
There's a lot of people rallying around Bubba, but I don't know that any of us really understands how that must have felt.
The FBI is investigating whether any federal laws were violated, as NASCAR has launched its own investigation. Racing legend Richard Petty, who runs the team Wallace drives for, called what happened a violation of human decency, tweeting in part, "There is absolutely no place in our sport or our society for racism. But even in pain, a teachable moment for families."
Is this a tough conversation to have, Mark, with your sons about what just happened in the last several days?
It's very tough, but at the same time, I want to make sure that they grow up knowing the difference between right and wrong.
No one is white, black, brown, or yellow. They are all racers.
And on this day, the different drivers, crews, and racing teams all united by 4 simple words. I stand with Bubba.
Former driver Jeff Gordon called this one of the most powerful, emotional lead-ups to any race that he had ever seen. And this was actually a race. Bubba Wallace finishing 14th, but only, guys, because he ran out of fuel at the very end. But I don't think there's any question as to who the race's big winner was yesterday.
Yeah.
Hoda, let me send it back to you.
Oh, Sam, that, by the way, that image will stay with me. This morning I woke up and saw it, and I literally had to replay it a couple of times just because it was a wow moment.
And in the race itself that Sam just mentioned, Bubba Wallace looked really good for most of that race. It's really awesome to see what he has come to symbolize, not just in sports, but in this moment that we find ourselves. It's a great spokesman for NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah. That little moment of darkness leading to such a beautiful moment in the light. And I think that's the image that's going to stick with people. Now for something that I think we've all been waiting for a long time. Al Roker in our neck of the woods, or at least I've been waiting. The man, the myth, the legend. Good morning, Al.
It's just great to be. It's great to be outside of the garage. Pretty good. Yes, keep the peace. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you for the message. All right, let's show you what we've got going on. No, at least he's not too tired. Anyway, let's show you as we look at our radar, and you'll see that we've got some strong storms now starting to fire up in Texas. We've got severe thunderstorm watches, severe thunderstorm warnings, all part of a system that stretches all the way from Texas to Boston. Record highs again in the Northeast, strong storms down through the Gulf and the western 2/3 of the country. We've got a lot of heat advisories, especially in central California, parts of Nevada, and the Southwest.